Shay, Akai Custom Guns. Want to talk about stroking. We get a ton of questions about stroking. What is stroking? What are the benefits? And how to work with the stroking itself. So I'm going to show you a couple of things. This is a regular gun. It's not a regular gun. It's an Akai Custom Guns. But you can see how far back the gun goes. This is an unstroked gun. This is a limited gun, also an Akai gun. And this one is stroked. And you can see how far back this gun goes. I'll show you first how we do it. This is a regular slide. This is a non-stroke slide. This is a stroke slide. And you can see how the reverse plug channel has been cut. We have to recut the rails, basically rebuild this front end of the slide. What it actually does, there's two parts to recoil. One of them is the bullet coming out of the barrel, and of course there's an equal and opposite reaction, and the gun goes back. The muzzle rise actually happens when the gun opens, and when the slide actually hits the frame, that's when the muzzle rises. It also what creates the jitter in the front side. What we want out of a gun is we want a very stable front side. We want a soft gun. We want a gun with minimal muzzle rise, and that's why we stroke them, so you don't have this crash that happens right over here. And here's basically how we prove it. This is a gauge for recoil springs. I'm going to use this recoil spring. Going to put that in. Going to put this at the end. There's two marks on this gauge. One of them is for a regular stroke. One of them is for a stroke gun. Regular stroke is 2.2 inches. A stroke gun is 2.5 inches. And you can see this one is going to be a 7. But if I push it all the way to the stroked, I'm going to go about 8.5. So basically while you're shooting, if you like to shoot with a 7-pound recoil spring, while you're shooting, it's like somebody's putting in an 8.5-pound spring or a 9-pound spring right at the very last quarter of an inch of right before the slide hits the frame, which is where the crash happens. This is where you want to do it. So we're taking the potential of the spring and we're increasing it by just a little bit right at the last quarter of an inch, which gives you less crash, less muzzle rise, less front side jiggle, less dot jiggle, and so on. So stroking is extremely important. The way it works is we have the custom reverse plug. That's got to be done because it has to be shorter. But then we have a regular guide rod. If you take a normal spring and you put it on and you put the custom reverse plug on it, you can see, don't make fun of my thumbs, you can see that there's spring left over, which means the spring is crashing. Spring bind. What we do is we cut a couple of coils off of it, so when you put it together, you have the reverse plug going all the way to the end of the guide rod. So whenever you get a stroke gun and you want to replace the recoil spring, make sure you use a plier like this, something like this, a wire cutter, and you cut coils off up until the reverse plug goes all the way to the end of the guide rod. Now, there are a couple other advantages to stroking. Beyond that, it allows you to play with shock buffs a lot more. We're increasing the stroke by 300. If I put 3 shock buffs, 3 aluminum shock buffs, each one of them is 100 thousandths. If I put 3 of them, I have a regular stroke. If you're using aluminum shock buffs, they create a dead blow effect. A dead blow effect allows for a lot less crash between the slide and the frame, which is a beautiful thing. I have guys playing with no shock buffs, 1, 2, 3, even up to 5 shock buffs into their gun. And because of the stroke, you still have enough of clearing of the ejection port. You still have beautiful ejection, but you have a dead blow effect. You have absolutely no bounce whatsoever from the slide to the frame. Stroking offers a lot of advantages. We love it. If you have any more questions, let us know.